Welcome to the True Crime Stories channel.
The internet was meant to connect us, a promise of a world where distance didn't matter, where anyone could reach out and find a sense of belonging with just a click. It created spaces where communities could form around any interest, no matter how niche or unique. For many, this promise brought friendship, knowledge, and opportunities that would have been impossible before. But for some, the digital landscape became a place of fear, anxiety, and isolation. This is the story of Emma Carlisle, whose journey from a vibrant online world to tragedy forced society to confront the dark side of digital life, a side we often ignore until it's too late. We often think of violence as something physical, something you can see and touch. But online harassment and threats can be just as damaging, leaving invisible scars that linger long after the screen goes dark. Emma's story is a powerful example. A young woman's joy in gaming twisted into a weapon against her, turning her safe space into a battleground. Her experience showed that a keyboard could be as menacing as a fist, and that words typed in anger can cut as deeply as any physical blow. And a username, hidden behind a screen, could mask a dangerous obsession that grows unchecked. The case forced a difficult conversation. Where does the game end and real-life harm begin? How do we draw the line between play and peril? Emma's tragedy highlighted a system unprepared for the challenges of the digital age, where the rules of the physical world don't always apply. Law enforcement struggled to understand online threats, often lacking the tools or training to respond effectively. Meanwhile, platforms became breeding grounds for toxic behavior, with little accountability for those who crossed the line. Emma's journey from happiness to victimhood was paved with ignored warnings and missed opportunities, moments when intervention might have changed everything. Her name became a call for greater accountability and safety in the online spaces we all inhabit, a rallying cry for change. This story asks us to look closely at online culture, to question the norms we accept and the behaviors we tolerate, and to ask ourselves if we're truly doing enough to protect people from harm, or if we're simply looking away. Emma's life was cut short, but her story sparked a global debate, igniting conversations in homes, schools, and governments around the world, and led to new laws, new protections, and a renewed commitment to digital safety. Her legacy is a testament to the need for compassion, vigilance, and a safer internet for everyone, no matter where they log in from. For all its sadness, her story carries a message of hope, reminding us that change is possible when we come together, and a demand for change that echoes far beyond her own community. The line between pixels and peril is thinner than we think. Sometimes it's barely visible at all, and it's up to all of us together to make sure it isn't crossed again. Emma Carlisle saw the world in vibrant hues. Her modest apartment was a sanctuary, filled with her own artwork, digital prints and watercolors. As a graphic designer, she was known for her creativity and calm presence at work. Emma's life was simple: coffee at local cafes, weekends at farmers markets, and board game nights with close friends. She was loyal, thoughtful, and deeply connected to her younger sister Sarah. Emma preferred real-world connections over social media, sharing her love of art, food, and nature online only sparingly. She avoided conflict and drama, seeking peace and contentment in her daily routine. Her gentle nature made what happened next all the more shocking. Emma's search for a relaxing escape would lead her into a world far darker than she could have imagined. She was simply a kind, creative person, until the digital world turned against her. Her story is a reminder that anyone can become a target. To unwind after long, stressful days at work, Emma would escape into the online game Shadow Frontier, a vibrant fantasy world filled with quests, camaraderie, and endless possibilities. It was her way to disconnect from reality and recharge her spirit. She played as Lyra, an elven archer, drawn in by the game's artistry and the welcoming community. For Emma, it was never about winning. It was about exploring, connecting, and finding a sense of belonging. Emma joined a casual guild, quickly making friends and sharing countless adventures with people from around the world. That's where she met Reaper X. At first, he seemed like just another friendly player among many. His messages started out friendly, offering help and rare items, but soon became more frequent, persistent, and oddly possessive. Reaper X began following her everywhere in-game, demanding her attention and sending a barrage of private messages that never seemed to stop. His tone shifted, growing more intense. He started asking personal questions and making unsettling comments about her character and her choices. Emma tried to set boundaries, politely asking for space, but her rejections only seemed to fuel his obsession and determination. Reaper X retaliated by sabotaging her quests and spreading malicious rumors about her in public chats, turning some of the community against her. The game that was once her sanctuary, her safe haven, became a source of anxiety and dread. Every login brought a wave of fear. He was always there, waiting, watching her every move. The line between game and reality blurred as the harassment escalated, making it hard for Emma to feel safe even offline. Emma's digital escape had become a cage, trapping her in a cycle of fear and isolation. She realized this was no longer just a game, it was something far more serious. The threat was real and it was closing in, leaving Emma to wonder if she could ever truly escape. Emma blocked and reported Reaperx, hoping for relief, thinking it would be the end of her troubles. But he returned with new accounts, each more aggressive and relentless than the last. He began using variations of her real name, signaling he'd found her personal information, making it clear he was getting closer. The harassment spilled beyond the game. He messaged her on private social media, invading every corner of her digital life. The digital walls around her life were crumbling, leaving her feeling exposed and vulnerable. His threats escalated, describing places she frequented and referencing private photos, making her fear for her safety. Emma was terrified. Her tormentor was watching her in real life, turning her home into a prison. She documented everything: screenshots, messages, a detailed log of his behavior, hoping it would be enough to stop him. Friends and family urged her to go to the police, believing they could help. The final warning came as a package, a dead black rose and a screenshot of her character with the words, "You can't hide," chilling her to the bone. The terror was now at her front door, a constant reminder of her stalker's presence. Emma gathered her evidence and went to the authorities, desperate for help, hoping they would take her seriously. The game was over. This was real life, and the stakes were higher than ever. She was determined to make it stop, to reclaim her life from the grip of fear. But the system was not ready for her story, leaving her feeling helpless. The digital world had become a weapon, a tool for her tormentor, and Emma was its target, caught in a nightmare she couldn't escape. Emma brought her evidence to the police, screenshots, chat logs, and the chilling package. She explained the escalating threats, expecting urgency. Instead, officers dismissed her fears, seeing it as a computer problem. They suggested she stop playing the game, missing the real danger. A report was filed, but the case wasn't prioritized. The game company responded with automated replies, banning accounts but failing to stop Reaperx from returning. Privacy policies prevented them from sharing information, even as the threat grew. The system, law enforcement and developers, was unprepared for digital stalking. Emma had done everything right, but the protocols were outdated and insufficient. She was left trapped with no one able to help. The failure to protect her would have devastating consequences. Behind the username Reaperx was Daniel Monroe, a 28-year-old living with his parents just an hour from Emma. To outsiders, Daniel was unremarkable. A warehouse worker, socially isolated, immersed in online gaming. For him, games like Shadow Frontier were about control and dominance. He had a history of targeting female players, seeing rejection as a personal insult. Emma's polite boundaries became a challenge he couldn't accept. Daniel's obsession was fueled by entitlement and a toxic online culture. He used basic online tools to dox Emma, piecing together her identity and address. The lack of consequences from police or the game company emboldened him. In his mind, Emma was a character to conquer, not a real person. This distorted logic set him on a path to Emma's door with irreversible consequences. On August 12, 2025, Emma was at home trying to feel safe. Daniel Monroe had already made his move. He drove to her apartment, armed and determined. Using information gathered online, he bypassed security and forced his way inside. The details are tragic. Emma fought for her life but was overpowered and murdered in her own home. Monroe fled, leaving behind horror and heartbreak. Emma's body was discovered the next morning by a concerned colleague. News of her murder sent shockwaves through her community and the nation. The media exposed the trail of ignored warnings and systemic failures. Under public pressure, police quickly arrested Daniel Monroe. The evidence was overwhelming. In custody, he showed chilling detachment. Emma's death became a national symbol of the dangers of online hate. The world was finally listening, but too late for Emma. The public outcry after Emma's murder was immense. Vigils were held, and #Justice for Emma became a rallying cry. Anger was directed not just at her killer, but at the systems that failed her. Activists and Emma's family campaigned for new laws, demanding online harassment be treated as seriously as physical threats. Politicians responded, drafting legislation that would become the Emma Carlisle Act. The act expanded the definition of stalking to include online activities, created new offenses for doxing and credible threats, and mandated specialized cybercrime training for law enforcement. It required tech companies to improve abuse reporting and cooperate with investigations. The law became a model internationally, making the digital world safer for millions. Emma's legacy is a permanent reminder: behind every username is a real person. Her story asks, how do we protect people in our connected world? The Emma Carlisle Act is a step forward, but the work is ongoing. We must remain vigilant, compassionate, and committed to change. Emma's story must never be repeated.